35 regional heads of state arrived at the inauguration for the 7th Summit of the Americas on Friday amid a relaunching of U.S.-Cuban ties. One by one, Latin American leaders filed in and shook hands with host Panama President Juan Carlos Varela. The summit marks the first time a Cuban leader has ever taken part in the regional forum.
U.S. President Barack Obama and Cuban President Raul Castro greeted each other at the summit, a symbolically charged gesture as the pair seek to restore ties between the two Cold War foes. Obama and Castro have talked by telephone about restoring diplomatic ties and are due to meet this Saturday at the summit. On Friday, the U.S. Department of State recommended that Cuba be taken off the list of sponsors of terrorism, paving the way for embassies to be opened in Havana and Washington. The Summit of the Americas began Friday at 7 p.m. local time amid the historic inclusion of Cuba to the Organization of American States and U.S. bellicosity towards Venezuela. The world will be watching the summit and the tensions that surround it. The high-level meeting will enter its second day this Saturday. Other thorny issues are also expected to pop up during the summit, such as the Argentine Malvinas Islands that are illegally occupied by the British. Pope Francis, UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, and outgoing Secretary-General José Miguel Insulza all gave inaugural speeches on Friday.
The presence here today of President Raul Castro of Cuba embodies a long expressed by many in the region. I'd like to once again commend the leadership of President Obama of the United States and President Castro for initiating normalization of bilateral relations.
Before the Summit of the Americas kicked off, Obama reassured Latin American leaders that the days of U.S. meddling in the region had come to an end. Speaking at a meeting of civil society groups and presidents, he also said he was pleased to see Cuba at the talks. Obama then called for greater efforts to tackle inequality and enhanced opportunities and transparency across the region.
Around the world, there are still too many places where laws are passed to stifle civil society, where governments cut off funding for groups that they don't agree with, where entrepreneurs are crushed under corruption, where activists and journalists are locked up on trumped-up charges because they dare to be critical of their government.
Bolivian President Evo Morales on Friday visited the Alternative Peoples Summit, which is being held on the sidelines of the Summit of the Americas in Panama. He delivered an anti-U.S. tirade amid cheers and chants at a packed auditorium.
Now that they cannot dominate us with the military dictatorships, now that they cannot organize coups from the United States and our countries of Latin America and Caribbean, what will they do? Economic aggression. They economically drown the anti-imperialist countries. They try to divide us and they attempt to drown us, and because they cannot, they want to dominate us with the decrees of President Obama.
On the streets of Havana, Cubans welcomed the news on Friday that Raul Castro and Obama shook hands at the Summit of the Americas as the two leaders seek to restore ties.
It would be almost perfect to strengthen those ties. For so many years, we've had that embargo that has blocked us on everything.
I think that it is the best thing that could have happened for them, to restore relations between the two of them. That's what I think. That it should have happened earlier.
A new anti-imperialist space was opened in Tegucigalpa, where social movements expressed concern about U.S. militarization strategies to coincide with the meeting of 32 presidents of the Americas at the Americas Summit in Panama.
The
Honduran people, like the Panamanian people, disagree with the military impositions. President Obama should know that people don't agree with this. In Honduras, they are trying to create the biggest U.S. military base in the heart of Central America to attack countries with a tendency to promote social changes to bring benefits to the people.
a cambios sociales para el pueblo.
The United States has recently increased its military presence in Honduras, with more Marines planned to arrive, supposedly to help the security situation. However, there is a strong opposition to the move, which historically has never been positive for the region.
Lo que está ocurriendo en relación con Honduras no es nada.
What is happening in Honduras is nothing strange and has to do with the crisis of hegemony on the country. Our country has a strategic role. We have always been responsible to integrate or disintegrate Central America, but the current military actions are because of imperialist and expansionist plans on the continent.
At the space, Honduras showed solidarity with Venezuela and called on Obama's decree calling Venezuela a threat to be repealed.
Para nosotros es fundamental
For us, these actions are fundamental for those that are being done by the social movements in Latin America. And they are organizing this just when the summit in Panama is beginning, and they are creating this anti-imperialist group to denounce the intrusive policies of the United States government that are not only against Venezuela, but also affect all of the region.
All over the continent, Latin Americans are demanding a much more respectful international relationship with the United States after centuries of U.S. meddlings. As the Summit of the Americas progresses, a less interventionist U.S. is one outcome many hope for. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
For over 2 decades, Rosario has been tirelessly trying to clarify what happened to his son Hernando, who was forcibly disappeared in 1993 while serving in the military.
Hace 22 años.
For 22 years I've been struggling to find out what happened to my son, and until now I still don't know what happened. Unfortunately, it was the military who disappeared him.
Hernando is just one of the 5,700 victims reported killed or disappeared by the military. In the wake of the peace process, their relatives are demanding truth to know what happened, why it happened, and where their beloved ones are.
No pido venganza. Solamente quiero mi hijo.
I'm not asking for revenge. All I want is my child, as he's the only son I had. I want to have him back, even if it's just to bury him.
It is people like Rosario who are eagerly looking forward to the end of the conflict, as they are the ones that have most suffered from it in the rural regions of Colombia.
It is understandable that the clamor for a bilateral ceasefire comes from the victims in the regions, from the people that live the conflict and that understand the concrete measures are urgent.
As President Juan Manuel Santos announced a 1-month extension on the halting of air strikes against FARC, hundreds of thousands marched this week to express their support for the peace process, but also to demand from the government the implementation of a bilateral ceasefire.
By marching, the people are actually saying something which is very significant about the situation, and especially in ensuring and wishing to see that the peace process is realized.
This 35th round of peace talks begins amid an overwhelming support from Colombian civil society, which was expressed in the March for Peace that was held just before the restart of the negotiations. Natalia Margarita, Telesur, Bogotá.
A memorial service will be held this Saturday for Walter Scott. He is the South Carolina father of 4, whose death has become the latest flashpoint in the debate over U.S. police violence against minorities. Unarmed Scott was shot in the back 8 times while running away from white patrolman Michael Slager, who has been fired and charged with murder thanks to a cell phone video showing him committing the crime on April 4th.
The Sheriff of California's San Bernardino County, John McMahon, has suspended 10 officers. They are involved in the videotaped beating of a suspect who appeared to have surrendered and was lying on the ground after making a failed getaway attempt on horseback. The FBI said it had opened an investigation into the incident, and the results will be referred to federal prosecutors. Police across the United States have been criticized for excessive use of violence, particularly against minorities. Last year, white police officers killed at least 11 unarmed black men, while shooting more than 2 weekly, according to official data.
A Italian and merchant ships have rescued almost 1,000 migrants from 3 overcrowded frail boats near the coast of Libya and found 1 dead body, Italy's Coast Guard said on Saturday. The migrants sent out a distress call by satellite phone on Friday and were being taken to ports in Sicily. The nationalities of the migrants were not revealed. Around 3,500 migrants are estimated to have drowned last year, but 170,000 managed to reach Italy by sea, fleeing violence and extreme poverty in Africa and the Middle East.
An Egyptian court sentenced Mohammed Badie, the spiritual leader of the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood, and 13 other senior members of the group to death. A judge made the announcement on Saturday, saying the 14 Brotherhood members were found guilty of inciting chaos and violence that has, according to authorities, caused hundreds of deaths, mostly soldiers and police. The sentences can be appealed before Egypt's highest civilian court in a process that could take years to reach a final verdict.
United Nations officials have again called on all parties in conflict in Yemen to allow for medical and food aid to enter the country, which, they said, is on the verge of a humanitarian crisis. While ground combat between armed factions battered southern Yemen, the Saudi-led airstrikes entered their 3rd week. The UN has reported that conflict has left over 600 people dead, 2,200 injured, and 100,000 displaced since the Houthis seized the capital Sana'a in September.
In Syria, the Islamic State group continues to intensify its attacks against government-controlled areas, especially in the country's second city, Aleppo, and the Yarmouk refugee camp, located only 5 miles from the capital, Damascus. According to Syrian television, the Islamic State's most recent attack in Aleppo has left 6 dead and several injured. The extremist group has bolstered its push beyond its traditional strongholds in the east in order to strengthen its positions in the embattled nation, which faces a 4-year civil war that has left over 220,000 dead and over 9 million displaced.
Brazilian soccer legend Pelé is looking forward to a star-studded Copa America tournament this summer, but he is questioning whether Barcelona stars Lionel Messi and Neymar are in top form. Pelé, who won the World Cup 3 times, said the tournament, which will take place in Chile between June and July, will be a Copa of Stars with Messi and will be joined by the likes of forward Alexis Sanchez.
Facts that have marked the course of history. Productions designed in the English language and made for the English-speaking world. This is Documentary. Watch it on telesur.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there.